Hey guys, Kelade here. Welcome to my Mythic Vigilance kill slash commentary video. For this fight, the stuff that I'm going to say for Mythic will be applicable to both heroic and normal mechanics, right? So on the fight on pull, I'm actually going to charge in. I'm actually going to only use Battle Cry and Odin's Fury on pull, and that's because I'm saving my Avatar and my Moonglaze for when we go over to the other side after collecting all the orbs. The orbs do stack up to 10, of course, and with 10 stacks, you're actually doing increased damage by 100%, and that obviously buffs your Moonglaze too, and buffs all of your other abilities. So, and that phase kind of happens in around every 2 minutes. It's slightly less than 2 minutes, but it's enough time in between each phase to where if you always use Moonglaze and Avatar when you're over there with the buffs, you'll actually be able to do it for every single time you're over there. So right here, this fight is one of those fights where you definitely want to include a lot of add-ons, like in a second. So right here, I leap over and I charge. So if you do that, and you guys will see when we get into execute phase, it's very key that you guys execute that well, because that is how you're going to be able to keep your Juggernaut stacks on this fight. So right here, we have an add-on you guys see in the top right that says Light Infusion Inner from our weak aura. So that just means whenever there's a Light Infusion that's on like the inner lane, that's the one that I'm going to get for their group. And that changes based on the weak aura that we're using. So if you guys are going to do this fight, definitely have a weak aura that kind of helps your guild with telling you guys, everybody, what color you guys should be at and where you should be standing. Generally, I think the most common strategy, the strategy that we're running, so one of the easiest strategies where you have a quote-unquote melee group of the color that's on the correct side, and you also have range groups behind them that's of a different color. Because the key in the mythic fight is that you can't miss an orb. Every orb has to be soaked. Especially when you're doing the transition phase, if an orb gets passed, you guys start taking increased damage, and that stacks. And also, of course, every time you collect an orb, you gain a damage buff, so that's really nice. Even in this phase. So there is like older strategies that aren't as used anymore because the damage of groups are so high, where you try to do the transition phase so fast that she's spawning those like solo orbs. You actually can use those to extend your buffs if you can, and you definitely do want to. So like I don't know when I do it, but I think there is a part of this fight where I actually like a yellow orb appears where the fell group is, and I actually go over there even though I'm melee and grab it. Um, but yeah, don't worry about grabbing these orbs too much. Definitely grab it if you need to. But generally, your range and your healers kind of grab the ones that are dealing with here, and you're kind of only grabbing it to just boost your DPS a little bit, which is nice. And we're just getting along here. I think for this fight, I think most guilds have their tanks solo tank all of like the slams, so you guys shouldn't have to worry about that. So of course, once again, we both leave over there and then charge. And once again, I'm also light inner. I don't like inner as much as I like middle in this fight. Middle is much easier to soak on this fight because you can stay melee the entire time. But for inner, sometimes you have to go and soak it, and it puts you out of melee range. It's unfortunate. But if it's that big of a deal, you can always ask your group to just move the entire camp group further up, so that way you guys can hit them with the buffs too. So right there, you guys can see again, once we got all the stacks, we got 7 stacks here. Whenever I know that I've gotten the max amount of stacks that I can have for that phase, that's when I go ahead and I pop all of my cooldowns. And because that's obviously when you're going to be doing the most amount of damage. Luckily, the buff actually lines up perfectly with Avatar. The buff lasts 20 seconds, and guess what? Avatar also lasts 20 seconds. So it almost matches up perfectly to always have your Avatar for that phase of the fight. And right here, the biggest thing is, what I'm trying to do is I just want to get her to 20% before we transition again, because it's going to be really nice for Juggernaut stack building if you can push her to 20% before the third transition phase. So that way, once you get over there, even though she has a shield on, you can actually start executing her and building up those stacks, and getting kind of a prolonged execute phase that you wouldn't otherwise get. So those orbs that you guys are spawning, definitely, of course, whenever they spawn, you want to make sure you get out of them. There's actually, so right here, so the yellow orb spawns over there, or the light orb. I actually go over there and collect it for that extra 10% DPS buff, which is nice. And then right here, nothing much, just keep watching out for the mechanics. The biggest thing right here is, I think a lot of people when they first do this is, you want to make sure that you actually are doing heroic really well, right? Because a lot of times it's not necessarily mythic mechanics that wipe the raid, it's mainly heroic mechanics that you were ignoring earlier that you want to make sure that you're not ignoring here. So I know a lot of groups, when they do the transition phase, they're not doing what we're doing, where everybody just like rushes over to the camp as fast as they can. They do the thing where they kind of walk along and they collect the orbs as they go. But I feel like with how much movement speed ability, especially a lot of our melees have, there's no reason for us to do that. And we kind of just get there as fast as we can, and it kind of works out for us, right? So right here, luckily, you guys saw there, as I transitioned, I was actually able to, leap and charge fast enough to keep Juggernaut stacks. And so you definitely can keep your Juggernaut stacks in this fight, and you definitely should be trying to keep your Juggernaut stacks in a fight, especially if your raised DPS is slightly different, and you somehow are not able to kill her here, and she goes to a transition phase again. That most likely will happen if your raid starts dying, like if half your raid dies right here, and then that might happen. So you definitely should be aware that it is possible to keep Juggernaut stacks in this fight. But it shouldn't be too bad. I think with how much DPS people have nowadays, as long as you're doing the fight correctly and you're collecting all these orbs, the fight goes by really fast. And I think that's why I actually really enjoy this fight, and it's probably my favorite fight in this raid, because of the fact that if you do your mechanics correctly, you actually get more DPS, and I think that's really good. But yeah, that's it for this fight. Relatively simple, collect the orbs, and then do as much DPS as you can. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. See ya!